Right, hi guys. So this is just a quick part three to the end of the wedding shoot. Just a couple of photos I'm going to edit basically on screen. I tend to do as little as possible really, just because I try and get it right in camera first time without too much messing around. As you can see with this one here, the actual the leaf shot as such. I've got it. I've used the Sony A7R2 and the Samyang 135 f2. So I'm actually about probably 30 feet away, 40 feet away. So manual focus, manual aperture, and it's down to me to get it as sharp as possible. With the Sony A7R2, I've set up my custom button number 1 as focus magnifier. So in manual focus situations, I just push it once and then twice, and it zooms in, a couple of times, so I can actually clearly see. For example, her eyes are sharp. So it's a decent, it's a decent tool. It really helps you get the shots in focus. So basically, what I'm going to do here is the shot I end up with was that, and that's all I did to it. And all I did was, if we go back to default, so that's straight out of camera. And as you can see here, there's a few changes. If I go image settings, what I've actually done, I up the exposure very slightly, the contrast very slightly. Highlights I dropped down just so where the Rotolight AEOS was lighting from the right hand side, it just blew the dress out very slightly. Had it on flash mode. The whites up slightly, and the blacks were just dropped very, very slightly for the sort of shadowing, and clarity actually dropped very, very slightly as well, just to soften her skin just a little bit. But as you can see, the rest of the shot is nice and sharp. The depth of field is very shallow. You can see here the back of her dress, just down the bottom here, is softened right off already, so it wasn't far behind her, and around about 6 inches or to a foot maybe in front of her that was in focus. So the depth of that Samyang lens f2 is really, really good to get complementary shots like this, with nice blurred out backgrounds and plenty of bokeh going on. So that's a simple edit. So basically open that one. I always generally just push auto tone just to see exactly what's going to happen there. It's changed it very slightly. But I wanted to keep it sort of the warm feeling. A few little things I actually ended up doing now was going to the dodge tool, and I had it on mid-tones. It's only at 9%, so all I did here was just brighten up a few little bits that, like in the background, the leaves down here very slightly, just give it a little tweak like that. The rest of her is actually generally quite good, and that was about it really. I could tweak the body shape a little bit if it need be, and things like that, but it's up to personal choice on how you presume things are. I then went to the spot healing tool, and there's a couple of little bits up in the air, like a couple of little bit twigs and stuff like that, so I just removed those, just little bits that are almost like an eyesore. That didn't sort of fit in the shot because it's mostly leaves obviously falling, so the odd little twig and stuff like that's actually part of the leaf. A couple of bits of sort of dirty bits that you didn't really want in shot, so that's basically that photo. I mean, right, so we've shot that one down, so that is as is really. You could make it black and white if you want to, but I think the colours and everything just in the background there just really kind of make it nice and warm feeling, but it also brings out the wedding dress quite nicely. So that's that one, which we don't want to save because we've already got it. And then let's go for, I was just going to do a couple of shots really, because we had near the end some amazing light. I think that's the one. Yeah, there's some amazing light, and we had literally, I'm not lying here, probably about 5 minutes to get these done, and we had 4 dresses left. The sun basically had dropped down behind the castle, there was a couple of rays of light coming through. One was this bit here, and it hit the wood here, and that was it. There was just enough light there to cast a nice shadow. It's quite a long shadow, but as you can see here, we had to use some of the dresses, because wedding dresses come as obviously dress sizes, but they're not adjusted at all for the shoots. They're not custom fitted or anything like that, so we were using clamps, plastic clamps. So we've got a clamp showing there, and also a clamp showing in the shadow there. So the tweaks I did to this shot was just brighten up a little bit, and here we go. So it sort of got a bit boosted, shall we say, and then slightly rotated. The whole lot was at a funny angle, so even though she's level and everything is, the perspective is slightly out, so we could adjust that. Basically I upped it by 1 and a bit stops, and the contrast up very slightly. The highlights were dropped down quite a bit, and the shadows were raised, and the whites are tweaked slightly just to keep that dress nice and bright, and the blacks were dropped back a little bit. The clarity wasn't touched, and all the other settings were left as was. So all I did to the actual shot that was used was I just cropped it basically and just rotated very slightly, so it was like that. I mean, you could mess around with the perspective and everything like that, but that's your straight line there. It was all, yeah, a bit crazy really, but it was at a slight angle. All I've done there is lift up that grass to give you a triangular moment down there, and some triangular movement there. And so you've got a few triangles going on, which is quite nice, which is quite obviously complementary to everything. So now we're going to go in and adjust the issue with the clips we were using, so we've got to get rid of those. So I've gone for the clone stamp tool, and I'm going to make it quite a bit smaller. I'm just going to use a little bit of information above and just bring it down and just lose it really. I'm going to use that little knob in there, whatever, so the dowel, and just replace it. Just keep rubbing that through a little bit because it's still showing. There we go. So maybe zoom out. There's still a bit there actually we'll get rid of. So it's just there we go. So, and then we've just got to deal with now the bit in there. So what I'm actually going to do is take it from there. You can mask off stuff and things like that, but I'm just literally going to do it freehand, just because it's nice and easy and relatively quick. This is a case of getting rid of that white clip. Okay, even closer. This is the real benefit of having a high resolution camera. So if you're running 24 megapixels or less, your detail levels will be a lot harder to go in so close. You know, it does change quite a bit. All we're doing is just nicking some information from up here, you know, just basically replicating the wood surface and everything until it disappears and looks relatively natural. Because it's not a major part of the photo, it sort of disappears, you know, you can't really tell it's there. That's actually also a handle for the thing, the loop, so you could remove that loop just to really make it look, you know, good. This is how the f2 lens, the Samyang 135 lens is, you know, it just drops off. You can see here how soft, so the wood's nice and sharp over here, and because I'm shooting at an angle, it just drops off into sort of softness over here. So even though it's not hardly a distance really, really works, but it makes this shadow here lovely. And the only thing we're going to do here is we go to Burn Tool, Shadows, and we're just going to up the shadow, that area there, just to make it come out a little bit more. And that, apart from this drain cover down here, we're going to remove as well. So we're going to try the spot healing tool and see what happens here when we do this. It may work, it may decide to screw itself up. Sometimes it surprises you. No, it's decided to make a bit more. So Control Alt Z gets rid of it, and then we're going to try the clone stamp again. And what we're going to do is just use a bit of information nearby, about there, and just do that. And then we've got that leaf which is going to go anyway, so get rid of it. And over here anyway, we're going to get rid of it. So that is a simple edit, you know. Then we go auto tones, see what happens. Nothing, so that's really good. Check our makeup and everything. There's one or two stray hairs here that we can just get rid of. A couple there that are just showing up nicely. Other than that, that's all we need to do to that really. The only other thing I may do is just get the dodge tool again and just brush it down the bottom of this dress here, just where the shadowing is, just to bring out the white a little bit more. Other than that, that works right well, that image. Like I say, these were the last ones, and we had literally hardly any time to deal with them. We've got one more. Should we do one more? And this one here, we can go to black and white. So camera raw filter. So I would have saved that as a in colour. We can go to the black and white. So straight out the camera, I mean, we haven't done anything with the sharpness or anything like that. It's lovely and sharp. I quite like, as a personal thing, to increase the clarity, especially in black and white photos, especially on things like wood that's got good texture. The only problem is when you increase it on the skin, it ruins it. So I'm going to go back, if you can see if I go the other way, so it softens the skin quite nicely. But the problem is when you go the other way, yes, all the detailed stuff looks great, but the skin and everything like that starts to look a bit crazy. But the wood grain and everything really starts to come out. So there's one really easy way of doing this. So what we're going to do is, in fact, actually we'll do it as black and white. So we'll go black and white again. Like I say, this isn't a right way or a wrong way or anything like that. So convert to grayscale. Okay, so that's just gone straight from colour, straight out of the camera, apart from the crop and a few little adjustments. And then we're going to do a duplicate layer. So now we've got two layers. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go back to the camera raw filter again. And what we are going to do now is actually increase the clarity. So now it's very punchy, as you can see. So what we're going to do now is actually go to the eraser tool. It's at 49 and 46%. I'm actually just going to rub through the top layer to where the skin is and everything, and the dress. It softens it all back up, but it leaves the harsh sort of patterns of the wood and everything really quite obvious. But everything else is still sharp, but what we've done is we've softened off, or made it look like we've softened the rest of the image, like skin and everything like that. But actually what we've done is actually kept the background really quite harsh. And then just for this bit here, we're just going to rub through. As you can see, a slight change. There you go. I say it's probably far from a perfect image, but you can see the difference. So the light's quite punchy there, but it's kind of missing the grain. The grain doesn't really show up as much where it does there, so the grain of the wood really comes out. The shadow comes out on the left hand side now. It looks a bit more punchy. It's personal choice at the end of the day how you want your photos to look. I quite like that. Some people might like it like that. You know, at the end of the day. So if I remove the lower layer, you can see what we've rubbed through, a basic area of where she was. There's many ways of doing that. You can highlight it, you can go around it, you can do masking and things like that. So this is just a simple, quick way of doing things. If you just want to do a couple of small adjustments and bring out sharpness and clarity and everything like that. So, like I say, it's not a right way or a wrong way. It's just how I've done it. So that's that image done. So that's gone. What else we got? What else do we have? That's an interesting image. Just looking through, we've got this one here. Which one is it? That one there. So we're at Lewes Castle, and camera roll. Here we go. So the sun was out. It was properly bright, even with the Sony A7R II, and I was trying to. What was that then? So I was using the Zeiss Batis 25mm f2, and I shot at f2. So ISO 100, 1/1600th of a second, and we used the Rotolight EOS actually down on the floor to light the dress, which was actually heavily shadowed on the left hand side here. The rest of it is actually, there's quite a lot of sunlight. But unfortunately, to get the sky and everything correct was extremely difficult, whilst keeping her still well lit. So to do that, this is the benefits of obviously high-end DSLRs and mirrorless. You've got so much decent raw dynamic range that you can actually bring back. I mean, the highlights and everything I've dropped back, the shadows I've opened up, because you can see here, even though I lit the dress, I actually wanted the shadows to come out. So actually the shadows around the wall there sort of gone, so it's actually quite a balanced image now, whereas it's extremely difficult, even though the dress was lit with the EOS, just on the left hand side here and up. It does work quite well. Blacks were dropped down very slightly, clarity was left as was, contrast was dropped as well, and we had it either warm or cold depending on the shot. So basically I wanted to show because it sort of went cotton woolly, the sky. It actually looked it was quite interesting. But this lady here, she had that sort of, she kind of fitted that dress, and she kind of fitted in the background of the castle and everything, so that worked really quite nicely. And as a simple shot, it worked really well. Then we went to black and white, and like I say, we could cut the clarity, which brings out the castle walls and things like that, but then soften her skin down the same way as we did before. So that worked quite nicely. So there's one other shot I just wanted a quick talk about. This shot here, we found when we walked up to the top of the castle, and I walked through the door and I was like, oh wow. So 3 different size arches with bright sunshine pouring through, with crazy sort of shadows and lighting and things like that. So what we did here was take a couple of images, and then I've merged them. This was taken with the Zeiss Batis 25mm, and I went low for one shot, and I thought actually it works actually mid drift. So I'm basically stood holding it at sort of like stood height. We had to, very contrasty shadows, because the light was coming through the windows was so bright that actually it was quite difficult to balance. Actually, we had the Rotolight EOS, which actually lit the back of her. You can see where the lights hit, I'm just going to see if I can find the. Sure, I did a more of a silhouette version. Where is it? Down here. So, but I just love the colours and how bright it was, and it looks kind of, even though it's dirty, it is quite clean at the same time. And you know, it looks rustic, but the dress looks pure and lovely and white. The way the the way it works and the actual shot, it just looks awesome. So that works really nicely. Here we go. So this is the shot. If I open it in Photoshop, that's at a pretty boring exposure. That was just a test shot to see exactly what was what, and then I decided I would go for proper silhouette style. With this one, you could see the light and everything coming through the window, and it was casting the shadows and everything like that. Obviously, if a bit auto, it opposite a stop or two. And I was going to go full on heavy shadows and the light and everything, but the windows were so dirty and dusty, it kind of looked crap. Because if you were to get the exposure correct on the outside and then light on the inside, it just looked, I don't know, it was just the light coming in looked messy. So I decided to go for the other way, which was let's open it. Which was like this. So even though the windows still look a bit grubby, they don't really jump out at you as much because all the white everywhere and the sort of plaster and whatever was just falling off, and you've got the lovely bright white dress. I'm actually fired. Dave's quite tall, so he fired the AOS. It's two shots. One from the floor we shot from behind her, and then we shot another one, him handheld from high up, shooting down onto the back of her head, so it lit her hair up and the hairpiece and everything nicely. So it works really quite well. We like that shot. Just the interesting arches and everything as well. That just worked quite well, really. So that was just a quick insight of the kind of basic editing and stuff that I've done for some of these shots. Some are obviously a bit more extreme. Some of the shots I've actually merged together. Some of the shots have had quite a bit of editing, from everything from sort of skin retouching to body reshaping very slightly, just to add more curve. Because what people don't realise is the camera's it's a 2D image coming out of the camera. It's not a 3D image like both of our eyes pick up, and we can see real depth live. So you have to sometimes get the angles right and then do a little bit of sort of manipulation afterwards to make it look like it does from the human eye. So sometimes it can be a bit extreme. The rest of the shots you will be able to see on either my Facebook page, so you can have a look through there. I will put a link down at some point once they're released. But that's it for now, guys. So another video coming very soon. Some product reviews and hopefully a new lens coming soon. And yeah, a few other things really. So some more editing tips. I don't do a lot of editing. I don't do a huge amount of editing. So it's more little tweaks here or there that actually help people do less editing. Because I found some of the edits that people have done in the past, and even myself when I was learning a long time ago, I used to over edit, so the pictures actually looked bad rather than great. So some of the shots, if you'd actually left them alone, would actually look better than they did if they were messed around with too much. So it's just a case of being careful, really, and less is more, should we say. But anyway, guys, keep subscribing, and any comments would be fantastic.